So we left off yesterday. You may have noticed I have reprinted because of the slight confusion. First of all, I've added some Maramukomis. I've added another two sheets or so, and I've reprinted everything. We are source 21, which is on page 11. Okay? Yesterday we finished off actually, we did the first paragraph of that. We'll quickly review that. And this is the Ponovich Rosh Hashiva, Reb Shmuel, said over that the Brisker Rav at the Chasna of his son in Netanya told the Masada Kiddushin to have Kavana, to be Moitzi, we have new sheets, to be Moitzi the Chosan, his Moitzi him Yidei Chayva with both brachas, both with the Ber Pri Agofen and the Birchas Erusin. Whereas he said that the Kala should be Yotza only with the Ber Pri Agofen. Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank brings this as well. Lefi ze lechura, with 4 lines in there. Lefi ze lechura, svir le'til chatchila le'tana Omain. It therefore would follow that, according to the Brisker Rav, she should not say Omain because she's not Yotza with this bracha. And were she then to say Omain, ve'im can have a hefseg ben Ber Pri Agofen l'shtiyas hayayin. Got it? That would be a problem. Omnom, however, haminig ayon bebrisk she'ein omerim lekalash le'tana Omain. The minhag, even in brisk, I think one should add, because as far as I'm aware, maybe there are some Rosh Hashivas that way, but as far as I'm aware, the standard minhag is that one says to both the Chosan and the Kala to have kavana, to be yotz in both brachas. And he says even in brisk today, the minhag is not to tell the Kala not to answer Omein. Hagam di yesh lodun gam al etzem hashehiyah ben abrocha l'shsiyah. Even though really one ought to be concerned potentially about the time gap that is itself a hefsek between the bracha. So okay, so the Ber Pri Agofen goes for her, fine, but that the Birchas Erusin doesn't. So you have a time gap either way, fine. And then we saw the diuk in the chinuch. Now let's go to the second paragraph. Me'idoch gisa. Can anybody translate that? Me'idoch gisa.
This version of the
On the other hand.
On the other hand. Not Girsa, Gisa.
Gisa.
Yes, yeah. Me'idach Gisa. Von der andere Seite. Also wir sagen Jiddisch. Wie sagt man das auf Deutsch?
Andererseits.
Andererseits. Das ist ganz bett in Jiddisch. Aber von der anderen Seite. Me'idach Gisa. Also goes with the thumb and with the nigger. Anyway. Minhag ha'olam. Shehakala oina omein al brichas nisuin. The minhag ha'olam is that the Kala does say Amen al brichas nisuin. Omnom shamanu sheyesh Rosh Yeshivos shekshehim mesadrin kiddushim emrim lekala shaloitana Omein al birchas erusin mishum sofek hefsek. Although, to be fair, he writes that he has heard that there are some Rosh Yeshivas who tell the Kala not to say Amen. But the minhag ha'olam is that she does. Ulefi zeh, and on the basis of this, hikshu, they ask al chidushay shel moron Reb Issa Zalman Meltzer Zatzal. I'm not sure whether I hope you've heard of Reb Issa Zalman. Reb Issa Zalman was known as the Zikan Roshei HaYeshivos of the previous day, father-in-law of Reb Aaron Kotler. He was known as the Reb Issa Zalman Meltzer, was known as the Zikan, the father, so to speak, of all the Rosh Yeshivas of the last generation. Now he said the following thought. Here's a vote from Rabbi Zalman to have in your back pocket, right? Why do women not drink from Havdala? Shehizbir. So Rabbi Zalman was explained. Mashakosam hamogan Avram, Simon Rish Tzadivov Sivkot Samach. The Mogan Avram writes in Hilchas Havdala, No agu anoshim shaloli tomeyain shel Havdala. Why is that? Dehainu mishum dechayshinon shema halocha kashitres oimrim. That should be the Noshim. Noshim P'turis B'Havdala. It's a big machlekes haposkim whether women are chayiv B'Havdala at all. Right? Al Hatzad, that they are potur, we have the following problem. Well, if he's there, Masha Onsa Omein al Brichas Ha'esh B'Havdala have a hefsek. Let's say she's going to drink the wine. Let's say we combine these two factors. Let's say we were to allow a woman to drink from the wine of Havdala. But you also have to take into account, maybe the halacha is like those who say she's not chayiv b'havdala. If she's not chayiv b'havdala, then when she says Omein on the bracha of the Eish, and the Havdala and the Besomim, it's a hefsek between the Beir Priagofen and the Shtia. And maybe suggests this is the vote of Rabbi Zalman. Yeah, you can show a bit more enthusiasm. It's like a shmaka vote. Rabbi Zalman's vote, yeah? That this is the reason that women we don't give them to drink, because maybe the halach is like those who say they're not chayiv b'havdalah, and therefore the Omain on the other brachas is a hefsek. Ein Hart Tzvi, Tzvi Pesach Frank brings it. His Einakel, his grandson, the previous Rosh Hashiva of Lakewood, Reb Aaron Kotler's son, Reb Shneur Kotler, Zechet Tzadik Livracha, asks a question on his Zayda. He says, okay, taking into account his Zayda's vote on Havdalah, Lefize bebirchas Eirusin, shehi birchas hamitzvos l'shittas harambam. Therefore, in Birchas Eirusin, which we're discussing, which is a Birchas HaMitzvahs according to the Rambam, Umuteles ala choson la'imra, on that basis, it's a bracha for the choson, not for the kala. So if the kala says Amen on the Birchas Eirusin, then Tichoshim kehefsik, ben Birchas bei Pregof and Shtiyas hayayin, k'mei legabe Havdalah. V'kiven shenohagu shahakala shoysa hayayin, says Reb Shneur asks on Kash on his Zayda. Put all the pieces together, and it would appear that his Zayda is not right, because what do we do under the chuppah? We do give the kala to drink. She says Amen on the Birchas Eirusin, which according to Kamos Shittos doesn't apply to her. Certainly according to the Rambam and many other Rishonim. So and yet we're not worried. So you see, obviously that's not a problem. That can't be the reason that women don't drink the wine. Haraya from under the chuppah. That's his kasha on his Zayda's Torah. We'll see if we can, by the end of the shir today, hopefully we'll have an answer. Nice kasha, no? You therefore are forced to say, and therefore, obviously it's not a hefsek, and then therefore the teretz of Rabbi Zalman, it's difficult. Let me take you to Hilchas Kiddush for a minute, and we will, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to learn a small piece of Shulchan Aruch, Ramah, and the Mishnah Berurah, and you're going to do the work. Okay? You're going to tell me why we're learning this. It's not that difficult.
Why we're learning that?
Why we're learning this particular, what the connection is. Shteit Amachaba, source 22. Shulchan Aruch, Erchaim, Hilchas Shabbos, Siman Reishayim, Gimel, Seif Dalet. This is Hilchas Kiddush. Shteit in Machaba. Yochel Adam lekadesh la'acherim, af al pi she'enoi oichel imohem. A person, Yotzo Moitzi, a person can be mekadosh for others, even though he's not eating with them. Delididhu have a b'mokum suda. What's the problem? The problem is if I'm not going to eat with them, then surely the kiddush suffers from the flaw of the defect of it not being b'mokum suda. Doesn't matter. They are going to eat, and therefore that's okay. Even though I'm not going to eat with them, but it's still a transferable property, and it's kiddush b'mokum suda. Afal gav. Asks the Shulchan Aruch, "Va'afal gav de b'birchas hayayin einu yochel hoitzi acherim imeinu nene imohem." But we know the halacha is that with a birchas hanenin, such as a priagofen, you can't be motzi somebody if you do not taste it. Kivan the high priagofen who chayven a kiddush. This is basically on the basis of the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, which I've quoted to you already. Since this priagofen is not a regular priagofen, it's a priagofen which is chayva le kiddush. You're not making Beir Priagofen because you feel like a bit of wine. You ain't got no choice. Chazal wa Masake, this is how you make Kiddush. So it's a chayva, therefore, ke-Kiddush hayoim domi. Even though it is a Birchas Hanenin, but because that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I have no choice. I need to make Kiddush, and Chazal have said Kiddush must be done on wine. Therefore, it has the status ke-Kiddush hayoim domi, v'yochel hahoitzi, afal pi she'enoi nehene. Therefore, Friday night, I say that specifically, we'll see in a minute. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Friday night, the person who's making the Kiddush does not need to drink, somebody else can drink. That's okay. Got it? Says the Ramah, Hagar, so far so good. Hagar, va'afilu beKiddush shel yoim. Let me ask you a question, Rabbi Say. Kiddush of the day. What is Kiddush of the day? What status is it? We call it Kiddush Rabbah. There's a bit of an irony there. But what is Kiddush Hayom? What do you have to say for Kiddush Hayom? What is the minimum you have to say? Hagofen, that's it. Thank you. That's all it is. It's a Birchas Hanenin. It's a Rabbanon, obviously, unlike Kiddush Halayla, but it's basically just by Pri Hagofen. You can say Al Kain, a lot of people say V'shomru, you can say In Tashiv Mi Shabbat Raglecha, you can sing and dance and do whatever you like. You know, say more psukim before, which is very nice. But fundamentally, Kiddush of the day is just a Borei Pri Hagafen. Now, therefore, would you say, therefore, that the concept of the Shulchan Aruch would apply what we said about Kiddush Friday night? What did we just say? We just learned that Kiddush Friday night is different. The Borei Pri Hagafen of Kiddush Friday night is not a regular Borei Pri Hagafen. Why? Because I don't have a choice. I have a chiyuv. I have to do this. It is really, I've got to make Kiddush, but Kiddush has to be done al hayayin. Therefore, the Borei Pri Hagafen doesn't have the status of a regular Birchas Hanehenin, because it's like Kiddush. It's a Kiddush. And therefore, you don't need to drink. It's not like a Birchas Hanehenin. What would you say should be the status on Kiddush of the day?
But the Havamina would be that you don't.
You
have to drink.
Yeah, I would think so too, because that's all the Kiddush is. It's not like there's a chiyuv of Kiddush and you have to make a Borei Pri Hagafen. That's all Kiddush is in the day. It's a Borei Pri Hagafen. Now you'll appreciate the Kiddush of the Ramah. Chiddush of the Ramah. Yesh la'ayin, whether the Mechaber agrees, we haven't got time to go into it. Hagah zog the Ramah va'afilu beKiddush shel yayin. B'shachris b'Shabbos mutar lasois kain Rabbeinu Yerucham u'beisosim shema rip v'arot v'atur. That here's a Kiddush. You make Kiddush for somebody Shabbos morning. All you do is you say, right? You haven't got time. You're in a rush, whatever. Not even an Al Kain. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Borei Pri Hagafen. There you go. Being with you drink. Whoa, that's a massive Kiddush. This is a Kiddush. Says the Mishnah Berurah, source 23. Rotzaloima. So the Mishnah Berurah gives it. He explains it. Rotzaloima. Af d'sham kol haKiddush hu rak Borei Pri Hagafen levad. Despite the fact that Kiddush of the day is no more than a Borei Pri Hagafen, but kiven dehi mitzvah. Since it is a mitzvah, albeit midrabanan, v'ikoroin nisakein shaloi b'shvil hana. The basis of this mission of this thing is it's lo b'shvil hana. It's not a Borei Pri Hagafen because you're thirsty. It's a Borei Pri Hagafen because Chazal have told you must make a Borei Pri Hagafen. Elo mitzvah olav kishar mitzvahs mishum hacham motzi acherim afal pi she'eino nehena kekiddush halayla. So therefore the same lomdus applies. Why am I telling you this?
The same could apply to the chuppah.
Oh, gewaldig! Very good. So even though this woman is not mitzvah, let's say the Birchas Erusin, but the Borei Pri Hagafen, at least it goes a part of the way to tell us that the Borei Pri Hagafen under the chuppah should be treated like it's there because even though it's nohagu, even though it's only a nohagu, and here's where maybe you could be mechalek. You could argue maybe that it's a nohagu. Maybe therefore it's not like Kiddush Hayoim, which is not a nohagu. You have a chiyuv d'Rabbanan. I was thinking of maybe it's not the same. Maybe. But let's see. Let's see, because there's another, we put this together with another if we put it together with another Mishnah Berurah, we discover something else interesting, which is, I mentioned it to you yesterday here. This is in Hilchas Tisha B'Av. Says the Shulchan Aruch, source 24, we're over the page. Arachaim Simon Tovkuf Nun, says the Mechaber, Kol Dalad Tzoymos Halalu. This is a fascinating separate topic. All of these, the other 4 Taniyos, if they fell on Shabbos, Nidchin La'achar Shabbos. We push Taniyos after Shabbos. Hagozak the Ramah. Ve'im Cholu Be'erev Shabbos. What do you do if a fast falls on Friday? Koirin B'Shachris U'Mincha Vayichal. Now, L'maisa for us, that's only a Sorah B'Davis. Okay, but so what do you do in Shachris and Mincha? You lay in Vayichal. Ve'im Yesh Chupa B'Yom Hatanis Be'erev Shabbos. Remember, in those days, for economic reasons primarily, many chuppahs were on Friday, and Friday night was the Chasna Suda, famous Chupa Ramah. So what would be? You have a Sorah B'Teves, it's a Tanis, and you're having a chuppah in the afternoon. What do you do with the wine? What do you do? So you make the chuppah. So if yesh chuppah b'yom hatanis b'erev Shabbos, noegim lispalel mincha, you daven mincha first, keren vayichal, v'achar kach yisena chuppah. That's all the Shulchan Aruch says. Then you make the chuppah.
They could risk only one drink.
Oh, so that's already, let's see. Zog the Mishnah Brura. Let's see whether bris is the same. Zog the Mishnah Brura in this case. V'achachos in achupa. V'osur oz hachoson lishtos mekois shel bracha. Kivin shu adayin mi'ba'od yom. The choson can't drink. Here it's different. Okay. The choson can't drink. So what do? Noisnin letinoik lishtos. You give it to a kid to drink. So picture the scenario. What does this tell you? What does this tell you? You're having a chuppah. You've just read Vaychal. Yeah? You just read Vaychal. It's a tanis. You have a chuppah. And neither the choson nor the kala, certainly not the Rav, drink. You see that it doesn't have to be that the person that drinks is the person for whom you see that very clearly in the Mishnah Brura. If it's a nidche, he says, and the choson can drink from the case. Okay? Sorry?
It's really nobody that
Correct.
has nothing to do with it.
Correct.
Just
you see that it doesn't matter. Correct. You
You
see that it doesn't matter. Very interesting Mishnah Brura. Okay? Right. We're going to finish off with two more Maramakomas. And with this, we pretty much finished this topic, and we're going to move on to finish Lamadala and move on to the next topic. Here's a tshuva from Rab Vosna, 26. A tshuva from Rab Vosna, Chelik Zayin Siman Reish Dalet. He writes this to, he's on holiday, and he's writing it to Rabbi Yehuda Arya Dina Shlita, a place in Bnei Brak. So, Esmel b'yom tzoyim kibalti mechtavoi. Right? He says, on Tisha B'Av I received your letter. V'hareini makdim lahoshiv, and I'm going to respond to you immediately. Hayosu l'maisa b'yom ha'eila, because you need to know this halacha l'maisa. B'inin ha-chosen asher medaber ve'ein shreimeh. It seems the scenario is a chosen who could speak, was able to speak, but was unable to hear. Ha'im yicholim l'sadar lahem kiddushin karogil. This was the shaila that Rav Duna asked the Rav Vosna. Can you do a regular kiddushin? V'harav ha'masadar kiddushin yivarach zabrachas shel erusin karogil. Afal pi she'ein ha-chosen shreimeh. We know a little bit about this, don't we? But here he's medaber. Let's see. Hinei ikara shaila kvar nishalti al ze harbe pa'amim. I've been asked this shaila many times. Lahalocha yireh levorech karogil. Lahalocha, Paskins Rav Vosna, make a bracha as always. Dahina Masada Kiddushin, Kashehuva b'maskona b'sefer oitzara poiskim migdolei ha'ra. Aval hayoy sheina sfarim poilofon. Lo yochel harik. I don't have sfarim at my disposal, therefore I can't write you a long tshuva. Ubeika hadova. And fundamentally, your dua shem supik b'zeh b'tshuvas noidi b'Yehuda. You should be aware that the Noidi B'Yehuda is not too sure about this, because here the chosen is able to speak. And you can add to this that in this particular scenario the kala is able to hear, and therefore that's another tzad to be makel. And this is the point really why I brought this tshuva. And this is the final point we want to focus on, the connection of the kala to the birchas erusin. Uba'aniyusi, he says, I think that actually the kala does have a connection to birchas erusin. Now, how is he going to work this out? And here he says a beautiful vort, or he asks actually, but he's going to explain it. Ahamakne. Uba'aniyusi zetoyle b'mashakos of hagoyin amakne rish perik beis to kiddushin. Does anybody remember the Gemara? Maybe you're familiar with the Gemara, beginning of the second parak of kiddushin. Yeah, the Gemara talks about shlichus. Yes, ha'ish mekadesh boy ubishluchai, ha'isha miskadeshes ba ubishlucha. The Gemara discusses why does it say ba first? Mitzvah boy yoser mi bishluchai. Famous Gemara. It's more of a mitzvah to do something yourself than to do it through a shliach. As the Gemara brings a Rava Malach Shibuta, Rav Papa, on Erev Shabbos, Rav Papa and Rava, who didn't waste their time, they would get busy cleaning the house, salting the fish, even though they had servants, they could get somebody else to do it, they could sit and learn. There is a mitzvah, when there's a mitzvah to be done, mitzvah boy, yosem mi bishluchai. Needs explaining, but not for now. It's more of a mitzvah. If you have a mitzvah, do it yourself rather than somebody else. And then it says a miskadeshes ba'u bishlucha. And there the Gemara says, mitzvah ba yosem mi bishlucha. It's more of a mitzvah for her to receive the kiddushin herself than, whoa, what mitzvah is there for the woman? What's going on? I thought she does not include in the mitzvah of kiddushin. It's ki yikach eshisha. What's going on? Zog the hamakna Oh, you hear the kasha? It's gewaldige hara. Says the Hamakna. Top line here. And you see, I tell you about Shekosov going Hamakna, Reish Perik Beis Kedushin. The Gemara says there, mitzvah ba, Yosem Bishlucha, Shehikshu HaKadmoinim. The Kadmoinim asked the question, who have a mitzvah of Al Perivirivia, Veloihi. He's obligated in Perivirivia, not her. V'divrei Haran b'zeh, do it because of Hamakna, says the Hamakna. Af al gavdehi loy mitzvah Al Perivirivia. It is true. She is not directly obligated in Perivirivia. Mikol mokim hakosav Rambam b'sefer hamitzvos. Lifrois velirbois. In Reshud base, the Rambam says there's a mitzvah. We saw this, remember? There's a mitzvah pruruvu. Reshud Gimel is livoil isha davka b'kiddushin. To be boil an isha through kiddushin. And the Rambam is a l'shitos. He says in the brackets that you make a bracha, it's a brichas mitzvahs. Finish the brackets. V'zeh shayach gam be'isha. And surely that would apply also to the woman shaloi livoil b'li kiddushin. Not to be intimate with somebody without kiddushin. It would be also for her to be intimate with somebody without kiddushin. Sheba Sefer de mitzvah Reshud Gimel. Sheba Sefer mitzvah shayach gam b'dido. Elu divrei Hamakna. So the idea that it is true she's not Matsuv in Perivirivia, but the idea that she cannot be with somebody unless it's Alidei Kiddushin, that applies equally to her. And therefore, insofar as that is concerned, there's a mitzvah. In other words, mitzvah lehi bo'el, that she should be with somebody only Alidei Kiddushin. And that is her connection. And that's what it means, mitzvah bo, yosem b'shlucha. The afal pi, so that's the chiddush of the Hamakna. Right? So it's not the mitzvah pruruvu, but it's the mitzvah not to have an intimate relationship unless there is a kiddushin that comes first. And that's what it means by mitzvah ba yosem b'shlucha. Says Rav Vosna, afal pi shechidusheinu ha'aniyim. Even though al chidushim in the Rambam, hikshesi al Hamakna, I asked questions from the Makna, to leave out a line or two, mikol mokim yira de zedavka min ha-Torah. Aval midrabanon pshita de shaychaba shaloi lehiboel b'loi kiddushin. Says Rav Vosna, even if we don't agree with the Hamakna, that it's a mitzvah de'oraisa for a woman not to be with somebody without kiddushin, but certainly midrabanon, that would definitely be the case. V'hashta, mimonashut. The Rambam shubrichas hamitzvah, you can be might see her, and there's no bracha levatol. Even the Tosfos, last page, even Tosfos Rishonim and the Tosfos and the Rosh and the other Rishonim, it's a brichas hashevach. But then for sure, so whichever way you look at it, you're okay. The woman does have a shaychus, the kala does have a shaychus to birchas ha-erusin, either in the Das HaRambam, because she's included, maybe not in Pruruvu, but either in, like the Hamakna says, in not being with somebody without Kiddushin, possibly Derais. And even if you argue with that understanding of the Makna, but Al Koponim Midrabanon, says Rav Vosna, for sure. And then if you've got the Rosh, then it's only Birchas HaShevach. Of course she's part of that. So whichever way you look at it, she is to be included. Why is Rav Vosna mentioning this here? Because here you have a kala, you have a suffix here on the chosen, the Gabba the Bracha, because the chosen can speak but can't hear. So he's saying doesn't matter because you have the kala. That's why it's relevant. Belav hocheshaychlach ve'im mishum hachosen atzmo the Das HaRambam bevada yash eight salasis k'mei Ramez she'agid belachash habrocha b'li she'yargishu b'choloifen lemaisa lasis hakol k'shach hasanim as a paskin of Vosna. Regular, so she is shaykh in the Birchas Erusin. And then finally, we will just round up with our final maramokim on this topic, the Madana Yom Tov. Tavna Ledina. And here he says, we're going to see a pshat from Reb Chaim Kanievsky to finish it all off. Yashli yashev minag ha'olam shehakala oina omein al Birchas Erusin. The Maisa, generally speaking, the minig is the kala does say omein on the Birchas Erusin. Loi mi boy lefi shitas hataz v'Rebbi Kiva egevativ kiddushin at Birchas HaShevach. As we saw, if it's a Birchas HaShevach, it's not chavada good. Ela afilu lefi hashitas that it's Birchas HaMitzvos, mikol mokim hi mitzuva be'isser shaloi tiyeh kadesha. She is included in the Isser of Lo Tiyeh Kadesha. She should not just be promiscuous without a commitment of a formal relationship, without Kiddushin. Even if it's only Midrabanon. B'sagi b'hochi l'chayva b'birchas Erusin al koponim Midrabanon, we make Birchas HaMitzvos on Midrabanon. Right? K'moi she'posek b'shut b'shleima, that you mavarach Birchas Erusin with the nirsuei cheresh lepikachas, and that, as we just saw for Rav Vosna. And finally, v'shomati mi moron agon Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Unfortunately, we have to say Zatzal. The kiven da hakala yesh lo shaychus lekiddushin. The kala definitely has a connection to the kiddushin. The hachosen eini yavorach. In English there's a saying: it takes two to tango. I don't know. It's just you understand what it means. You cannot have a chuppah with just one person underneath it. You need a man and a woman. That's just the way it works. So therefore, the chosen cannot make his birchas erusin elam ken yesh lo kala shemiskadeshes elov im ken sagi bahocha. That is more than enough, says Reb Chaim, to lahatir lo lechatchila lanes Omain al birchas erusin umimela ein shum shayla shel hefsek ben birchas ben priagofen ushtias hayayin. And with that, we can make a siyum on Seif Aleph and Seif Beis, and we will now continue. We have a few more minutes left, and you have Shulchan Aruch to hand, hopefully. I did print out a few the other day, Rabbi Sai. Let us move forward in this simon. If we won't finish it off totally today, but certainly by next week. Okay, you with me, Sif Gimel? Yeah.
Yes. Im
loy beirach birchas erusin b'sha'ar shekidesh. What would be if you did not make the birchas erusin for some reason? They didn't make birchas erusin b'sha'ar shekidesh. Loy yivarech oisa b'shas nitzuin. This is shitas ha. Remembers. Whose opinion is this? Opinion of the Rambam. Right? It's Birchas HaMitzvahs. Afterwards, he says it's a bracha levatala. Remember? There's nothing to make it for. Okay? Says the Ramah, Hagar, v'yesh oimrim, de mevorchin oisa b'shas anisuin. Says the Modcha, it's actually b'shem Rashi. This is another topic which we're not going to go into. You do make the bracha, you can make the bracha b'shas anisuin. V'chein noyagim, afilu kiddush isha mizman oruch. Even if you did kiddushin a year ago, remember these to separate it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice and Libsula Yud Beis Chaydesh in Biyehuda, etc. So you did Kiddushin a year ago. It says Zman Oruch, but then you come into the Chuppah, you can make the Birchas Erusin under the Chuppah. V'yesh Shomrim, the Chayzer u'Mekadesh oisa tachas HaChuppah. Some say you do Kiddushin again, tachas HaChuppah. Kadesh you Kiddushin smuchin levracha. The Rivosh says that you should do the Kiddushin again, so that you have the Kiddushin right next to the Chuppah. V'ayin le'el kamon similar advav. Fine. Be'im kvar beirach birchas erusin b'shas Kiddushin arishonim. Now, what would be if you did birchas erusin already? Yesh erim dechayzim vorchin tachas hachuppah b'leaz koras sheim mishum haroyev. Some say that you repeat birchas erusin under the chuppah that you do later without sheim u'malchus mishum haroyev, because people who see, they don't know that you did the erusin already. Okay, that is the Ramah. Okay. We don't need to go into this. Final Seif here, Seif Dalad, Birchus Erusin, Tzricha Asora Lechatchila. A minion, you need a minion, we're going to see. You need a minion for Chuppah. For Nisuin, you need a minion. What about, you need a minion. What about Erusin? Do you need a minion for Erusin? Says the Mechaber, Tzricha Asor Lechatchila. It's better. It is better to have 10. If you didn't, we'll see, it's still okay. Says the Beis Shmuel, Ve'im leka asara ein ikuv. Beis Shmuel Zayin. Got it? Says the Beis Shmuel, if you don't have a minion, ein ikuv, it's not ma'akev. Aval birchas nisuin ma'akev. As we will see, with birchas nisuin, it is ma'akev. Okay. Asara. What's Asara? Next Beis Shmuel. Hainu le'edus kiddushin tzorich li'es shnayim u'lebrocha Asara. For the edus you need 2. For the brocha you need 10. So is it 12 or is it? Is it a minion plus the edim? Zog the chelkas mechaykek. Zayin. You got it? In total, correct. Zog the chelkas mechaykek kolema milvad shnei edi kiddushin tzorich od shmeina anoshim. Af kroivim. They can be kroivim. It doesn't matter who they are. They can be family because it's not a proper didedus, right? But of course, the edim, you have to make sure that they are not related to the chosen or the kala or each other. Fine. Okay. Let's reverse here. Fine. Pischei Chupa. We don't need to do this. Players can't shame. Okay, with this, I think for the moment we can say we'll stop here for today. We have finished.
Is it
Basically
said
finished
also
the
what it
Milan
says here explicitly that the Evet it's fine because
Yeah, it says lechatchila,
that's
and it's
not-
you got it here in the where was it? Was it in the Chelkas Mechoykik or was it in the Pischei Tshuva? I think in the Pischei Tshuva it's definitely clear that you don't. It's not Mak. It's definitely not Mak. Yeah, Beseda Shkoyach Rabbi Sai.